welcome to the Dominate Healthcare podcast. Really jacked up today to be on with Dr. Brandon Pay. Dr. Brandon.
Hey, Dr. Ben. Glad to
So,
be here.
we were talking before we got on, it's all about dominating. So what's interesting is a lot of our chiropractic peers will post a lot of things on Facebook, and we're some of the loudest voices complaining about, lockdowns, how we've been lied to, the dangers of traditional medicine. But posting or complaining about it and pointing a finger at the big guys that are all out there to hurt us, that's not a solution. So don't complain about it. Dominate. Take over your area. Be the thought leader. Build the biggest clinic in your town or even the world. And so, Dr. Brandon, you've built something huge. You've obviously got this dominate mentality.
Yeah. Our tagline for our clinic is Revolutionize Healthcare. And we started that 10 years ago. So dominate goes along with that pretty well. But really that was the concept for me was this version of healthcare that people are exposed to, that the majority of people are exposed to, is really not healthcare, it's sick care. So revolutionizing healthcare to me meant like having a way for people to actually get healthy. And that's what I've always wanted our clinic to be was, here's the steps in the process that if you follow this, you will be healthier. It's not a maybe, and so constantly having that conversation with patients, like, is this going to make my whatever go away? And I go, I don't know if it's going to make that one particular thing go away, but I can guarantee you that you're going to be healthier when you're done with this. So I think people understanding that and really, it is an education thing, but yeah, that's our concept. You put in dominate healthcare, revolutionize healthcare. I mean, that's what we're going for.
Yeah, and you go back to the original philosophers in chiropractic. So Reggie Gold used to say, all I'm suggesting, right around what you were saying, Dr. Brandon, is that if I'm squeezing your aorta, that it's better for you if I unsqueeze it, that I release your aorta, and what happens to you next, all I'm saying is you're going to be a lot better. And so everything that we're doing, we know will make them a lot better, where a drug, a vaccination, a surgery, more than likely you're getting worse, even though you in some cases you might feel a little better. So I want to get to, with your clinic. So you had a very powerful, high volume chiropractic clinic, but that wasn't big enough. You really, when we talk about dominate, when we started coaching together, eventually I had to go up there to see it because it was so complex, so big, and I could not believe what I walked into. There can't be more than 10 chiropractors out of 80,000 on the planet that have what you have up there. So describe what's there and why you decided, I think you've given us some indication, but why you decided to go so big.
Well, number one is just God's direction. Something I was always interested in. My college education was exercise physiology. Played sports my whole life. When I went to chiropractic school, I thought I was going to be a chiropractor for professional athletes and just athletes. And then I realized there weren't that many of them. And also, my passion was helping people really optimize and be healthier. And I was thinking about this question. Really, it just worked out in a way that it was time for us to expand. We had to get out of the spot that I was in because it just wasn't big enough. It was a little small hallway office. It was my first practice. From about, 1,800 square feet, maybe 1,500 square feet to 16,000.
That's awesome.
So, and just thinking of it that way, so we bought a gym. It was actually gym and tanning. So I bought this and it was like, I was just looking for another building. I looked at building one, I looked at all these different things and And then I got this. There was just a situation where this gym was available. I knew it was available. Um, I had somebody that I was working with that had a good fitness center model, and was kind of partnering with me in that. And so I'm like, and you know, I was young, so it was like I didn't even consider um, the difficulties or the possibility of failing with it or any of those things. I'm like, I don't know. It's a gym. It's already got people. I was doing screenings in the gym. I'm like, why? I might as well just move in there. So we got rid of the tanning, moved our clinic in. Um, so that was 2010, integrated in 2010. Um, and you know, I guess the main thing was I did want to. It was all things that I was passionate about. Like I wanted to help people on a greater scale. I wanted to grow my business. I was always interested in involved in fitness. So I'm like, man, this is like the best of both worlds. When I started, since then it's evolved and changed and grown, and you know, it's been a really good experience.
Yeah, so just describe for everybody what you see when you get there. So again, we're coaching. I'm like, I've got to see this.
Yeah,
Fly up to Cleveland. You know, of course, part of it is we're going to go out and see LeBron that night with our
yeah,
kids. But
right.
fly up to Cleveland.
Well, that's
So you walk
because
into this place.
LeBron's wife
What
was a nutrition weight loss
that's right.
patient of my wife's. Um, so that's yeah, that was part of that.
Yeah. Oh, we got hooked up with some nice seats. Yeah, you could almost
Yes.
reach out and touch LeBron. So at any rate, I walk in there. So you got 16,000 square feet. So there's a cranking chiropractic clinic. So a lot of people think, oh, if you start to integrate and do other things, that makes you a bad chiropractor because you're no
Yeah.
longer focused on chiropractic. There's a cranking subluxation based principled chiropractic clinic in there of 550 to 600 a week. So one of the biggest clinics in all of chiropractic. But then to dominate and do more with his life and go big, I think a lot of chiropractors, the problem is they're small. We got to be big, think big to make a big difference. And so you're thinking big. So you go from there. There's full PT, functional medicine, regenerative medicine, and not just one gym. This is the thing that blew my mind. Not just a regular gym, but a second gym. There's a CrossFit gym all happening. And all I could think is this is a man who is looking to change the world and revolutionize my hometown of Cleveland. So tell us a bit about how it got to all of that. Like why did you get to the point of the what that you're doing there to make
Yeah.
that kind of big difference?
Yeah. I mean, it all kind of happened in sequence, so to speak. I mean, like, so when you walk in, or to go back to your question at the beginning, like, what do you see when you walk in? So when you walk in, we have a shared lobby. You know, it's not a waiting area because we don't want people waiting. It's a shared lobby. Um, and I learned this from people like you and David Singer and things. And so we set it up so chiropractic is the foundation of what we do. Um, and so when you walk in, to the right is chiropractic. So we knew that was the thing that would have the most volume, um, and needed the easiest access. So our adjusting tables are right at the front by the windows. And so we have all the chiropractic stuff up front. We have the spinal correction and rehab, um, is all kind of within the clinic area. We do a lot of recovery technology, so like frequency specific microcurrent, PMF, infrared lights. Um, we use our cornea lasers, different things like that, which we use with our functional medicine. And then we have fitness. So I want to just one detail. So CrossFit is not with us anymore. So we brought in a fitness director, which I also want to mention, was another kind of area of development for me. So I brought in this guy who's Dr. David Brown. He works with the United States Olympic Committee and the International Olympic Committee. and they hire him to coach their coaches. So he's running our fitness department. So that we've taken over the whole space. So now we don't have CrossFit. We just have his programming,
Just
and
one
we
gym
have
now.
just one gym. We have different levels of it. So but that's been really good. So we have, and then we have regenerative medicine, which we just opened and started. We have a procedure room, which you haven't actually seen yet, but in there we have a really high level ultrasound and also a C arm. So to me, it's really cool because we have patients that maybe chiropractic couldn't save. We've had lots of, we've had those people over time where they've had degenerative discs or they have degenerative hips or things like that. And we have a physiatrist. He's a nationally recognized. Again, God's blessed us with good people. Nationally recognized physiatrist and Dr. Meehan, and he comes up here from Miami, Florida. It's a little harder to get him here during the winter, but he comes up here for like once a month and does the more complicated procedures in that procedure room. Um, and there it's awesome, right? So we have corrective chiropractic care and a lot of wellness patients. So we believe in lifetime family chiropractic, subluxation based lifetime wellness care for your family. So we have that. We have functional medicine, and so we look at blood work and we do the whole process there, making sure systems are functioning their best. And another thing that a lot of people don't understand, Dr. Ben, which you have gained a lot more understanding of, that there's medical people that believe the same things that we do. There's not a lot of them, but they know that there's certain things in our healthcare system that they don't want to be part of, and they're looking for places like ours, where they can really make a difference. So
Yeah, and
corrective chiropractic.
yeah, just kind of jumping in there for a minute too is so what you're doing once again, most people are really complaining about the care in the world and their community, which of course is being led by, as you're saying, not so much medical doctors, but medical institutions that are
Systems.
just looking to profit off people's pain and suffering.
Right.
And so somebody has to step up and change it all. Somebody has to transform the system and lead it, which is what you've done. And most chiropractors would never see anywhere near, I mean, even close to the sort of degeneration and decay and type of condition and pain that people will ultimately get into in an end stage of this disease phenomena. And so you've stepped up and been the leader in, not just in Ohio, but really you're beginning to lead the nation, is to say, we're going to take the worst of the worst of the worst patients, and rather than let them just keep heading down the road of this traditional healthcare system that fails, we're going to take over. And what I've found, like you found, is there are thousands of medical doctors that would love to jump off this train of the medical institution that exists today and lead regenerative care and functional care, because what you're doing with somebody based on a lot of the procedures that probably most of the people watching don't understand and never been exposed to is, rather than people getting down this track of medicine that has, no end, that is even possibly going to get them in a place in their life where they're happy and healthy and fulfilled and satisfied and doing anything with purpose, you're taking them off that fast track of death, and you're going to bring them onto a track where ultimately this is a lifetime wellness patient who's going to be back on track to their health potential. And so it's a dynamic work you're doing. And I want to kind of get into the how for a moment, because you've mentioned a couple of times the people that are now working with you. What's great about building something big, deciding I don't want to be small anymore, I want to do something big and truly change the world, is the kind of people you start to bring on board. It's football season just started as we're taping this, and all these kids that they drafted at, high, these quarterbacks that got drafted high into the NFL. The reason you get a high draft choice is because your team sucks. And so these poor kids, they were great in college and, winning Heisman's or going to New York for the Heisman ceremony, national championships. Now they're doing awful in those first few weeks of the season because they got a terrible team. But your team is made up of elite physicians. You've got, MBAs working for you. You're able to hire really great people. So as we get into the how, you're able to build an elite team, build a team that can actually go win a Super Bowl. And
Right.
that's another thing I really love about what you're doing.
Yeah. That's right. And you have to have the production, the things that you're trying to accomplish in order to have those types of people too. And I mean, something that maybe healthcare providers don't always like is that you have to sell your services, and doing that, that allows you to have jobs for people like Dr. Meehan and Leah, my physician assistant. She's been with me for almost 12 years now. Um, so they're into it more than a lot of chiropractors are into this wellness lifestyle, and helping people to get well naturally. But yeah, they're rock stars, and again, it's one of those, like, you have to be able to do both of those things, right? You in order to have really good people, you have to be able to pay them, which means you have to have the services, which means you have to be able to sell those services and the value behind it, which means you have to believe in it. I mean, I say that to my staff. Like, you bring up some things that are emotional to me because I say that to my staff on a regular basis. Because sometimes they look at me like, what are we going to do with this person? I'm like, well, if it's not us, then who?
Yeah,
Because
the alternative is not an option. I see it every day because we have our regenerative centers, and you see people at that end stage where they've been doing medicine for those kinds of problems, and it's a disaster. I mean, it ruins people's lives.
and I don't know that even maybe chiropractors, our staff for sure, not always understands. We try to show them. Um, I mean, people are sick, so it's not just. That's why I guess that's why we have all the things that we have. So they need chiropractic because they need their life power flowing through their body at 100%. But they also have an 8A1C, and their CRP, their inflammation is through the roof. You're like, okay, well, I can adjust them, but what about that? Like, they're living in a constant toxic environment. So we got to try to help them there. Um, so yeah, it's a it's a major calling, but like, these people do get better. They do get better. They do have better lives, and up to your point, it's really about quality of life. Um, if you can manage your symptoms in your we see it you see the dichotomy between the two people all the time. You can manage your symptoms with medications and be sick, or you can start to transform your body and grow out of that. When you're sick, your life, I don't care if you have pain or not, because you could take a certain amount of medication, your life stinks, versus gaining the ability to do things and go on about your life experience and do what you want. I mean, that's a major difference. And it's freedom, right? The reason why we do this is because of freedom, not being a prisoner to your health.
Yeah, speaking of freedom, it's kind of in kind of the last thing I want you to share. When we first started working together, when I started coaching with you a few years ago, one of the things was just, you were working a million hours. I've heard chiropractors use this term, and what a desperate term it is, that I'm chained to the table. Like, oh my God, talk about prison. I'm literally in prison at my table in chiropractic. And now that you've got, great people on your team, esteemed people like Dr. Brown, who's, yeah, I've gotten a chance to work with him, just an incredible, brilliant man in the fitness industry. You've got people like that. You've got all these different services going on that don't require you. I know you're able to travel with your son to play football, spend time with your wife and your family. That it has freed you up as well. So as we look for chiropractors to evolve to this type of practice and have more going on with great people and other phenomenal life transforming services, tell us a little bit about that for you, just how this has all freed you up as well.
Yeah, I mean, so like you were talking about, there's you hear people say like recurring revenue and things like that, or passive income.
Yeah.
I don't know how
Side
passive it
hustles, side
is.
hustles.
Yeah, I don't know how passive it is,
Mhm.
but there's other people that are making money, for our practice, and so I'm trying to do the things that are most important for me to do. One of those things is chiropractic. So doing the adjustment, and then I can lead it. So another point is this dominate healthcare, revolutionize healthcare idea. I hear a lot of chiropractors. Um, they kind of poo poo negatively speak of having a medical staff, like you've somehow abandoned your values or something. And these chiropractors that are in leadership positions, and I'm thinking, like, that makes zero sense to me, because we're taking medical people and bringing them into our way of life.
I think because you're now leading these elite practitioners and because you have other people working on your
Oh yeah, it's
behalf.
from a free. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think,
Well, those are
the impact you're having to dominate is at another level. So, as you mentioned, a chiropractor might judge what you're doing, but you're making a massive impact, exponentially greater than somebody who has chosen, which there's nothing wrong with it by any means,
right.
but they've chosen to just limit themselves, just do chiropractic, which is fine. So on top of that, though, that person, if they leave their practice, that practice can't produce anything. So they truly are chained to the table
Yeah, yeah.
because that's all that practice does. But because you are employing people like Dr. Brown, who runs your fitness industry, people like your Dr. Maya, who's running your functional medicine department, people who are doing regenerative medicine PT for you.
Yeah,
You are freer. Like you said, it's not passive income. You're still working very hard, but you're freer. You can go now finally, and I know you don't miss as often as possible. You don't miss the football games and the soccer
right,
games and the things that your kids are doing.
right. Well, yeah. So that, from a freedom standpoint, yeah, I mean, and it's intentional. Like, um, I I can't do all of those things. I mean, in terms of in my practice, obviously we have really good people, and not just providers, but also we have really good staff. Like my director, we call him the director of clinical services, Eric. He's been with me for 12 years.
Yeah,
Um,
he's an absolute rock star.
yeah, I tell people he's the best case manager in the country, maybe on the
Yeah,
on the planet.
yeah,
Um,
I wouldn't disagree.
and just coordinating all of the different services. He's the one doing that. Like, so I present it. Sometimes Dr. Meehan presents it. Sometimes Leah presents it, and then Eric wraps it together in a bow so they can then go out and accomplish it. But just back to that point, like, I think sometimes chiropractors, they may be afraid to have this kind of model, because because they think we're going to be influenced by the medical people. I just want to be clear, like, it works, it can work if you do it right and you have the right intention. So I think that's something that's important to understand. But yeah, from a freedom standpoint, I think it allows you to. I don't miss um, things as much as possible. Sometimes I'm still here later than I want to be, but you are able to rely on other people.
No, that's awesome. Well, man, you are an army of one. We really appreciate you. You truly are dominating. And you're changing the profession. You're changing healthcare. You're really making a difference in the world. You're saving my town there in Cleveland. So thank you for dominating. You'll also be one of our key speakers at the Dominate Healthcare Conference. So we're looking forward to that. For everybody watching, again, not dominating is not an option. Bless you guys, and remember who you are.